She's got the fire raging behind her. This is going to be like a fireside chat. Keri Potts is with
That's
me.
right.
Such a powerful voice in sports media and beyond, a beacon of hope and inspiration. We are going to share her story here, talking to her from across the pond in England, in London, where she works now as head of communications at Amazon for DSP and DAs in the EU. Lots of great years at ESPN. Volleyball player at Syracuse, a fascinating story of inspiration. And we have a chance to talk about that here on the Out of Something podcast. I'm Bryan Fenley with Fox Sports Radio. Also, have done volleyball for ESPN. Keri, it has been a matter of time since we've had you on, and I'm very much looking forward to this conversation. Thanks for doing this.
Thanks for pursuing. I think we took a few swings at this, so finally, and I was like, you know what, we're gonna make this classy because we're classy people,
Yes.
and yeah, so let's do our fireside chat. I'm ready for you.
We are doing it. And every morning, what I've read about you, Keri, is that you sit with coffee and you are scrolling through Instagram
I wonder where you
looking,
heard that.
yeah, looking for something to make you smile. Maybe with
Yeah.
the fireside video behind you. So, what made you smile today?
What made me smile was an Instagram of a grandmother knitting small sweaters for very small tortoises, and then seeing the tortoise wear the sweater, which it looked like a stegosaurus, go by, and I thought, that is tremendous, and that got me going. It got my team going. Like they thought it was pretty cute. And I just look for something like that. I try to take the time when I get out of bed. I love my coffee time, and I just try to find something because the day will bring you all sorts of things that take your smile away if you let it. And so, yeah, so I try to be intentional about that.
How do you do such a good job of when things can happen in life, Keri, that can take your smile away, that you are able to look for the good in life and how you're able to sort of work yourself through that?
I don't know who told you I was actually good at that. I think that's a really ugly rumor. Um, oh gosh, I think I don't take myself too seriously. I think if anything, I'm hard on myself. So, I'll say, Keri, come on, get your head out of your ass, basically. Like, don't be so self-important. There is no dearth of things going on in the world that I can't actually put myself in perspective to that, right? And find a reason to, persevere or just level set. I'm not saying I advocate for always saying, oh, well, I'm not in Ukraine or I'm not in Turkey and
Sure.
Syria. Like, I'm not, like, that's not fair, because we do have to honor our struggles. But, um, you know, just trying to actively level set so I can face the day, which is what we all try to do.
You're known to play volleyball and a set or two that it comes with it. And you went to Syracuse and you played volleyball at Syracuse. What I'm
Yeah.
most interested in about your journey in sports playing is your competitive fire.
Yeah.
How would you quantify what that's like?
For me, what I quantify it as, I would say it's, yeah, actually, it's self-propelled. Like, I never was the one that was like trash talking people across the net. I had teammates that did that, and then, like, right when then the ball got shoved back down their face, I'd look at them like, "How you feeling now? Was that like your best strategy?" Like, because
Uh,
I'm like the never let them see you sweat thing. So I will preemptively do something so I never have to live that injustice, right? So my competition was with myself. I never let anybody in on that. I held myself to a very high bar, and I think that's the same in the work world. I'm not really shaken by people around me. Like, I'm not looking and comparing myself. And I'm much harder on myself probably than I would be, just comparing this to other people. So that's kind of how it kind of manifests. And that's what I kind of hone that just as an athlete. And every athlete's different. There's other people that get very jazzed and energized, right? I mean, think of the history of sports, all the great trash talkers. Think of John McEnroe and think of Peekaboo Street. And, like, there's all
yeah.
sorts of, and there was a swimmer that used to, like, spit in other, her name was like Missy. She used to spit in the lane before the
Oh my
before
goodness.
before the meet. She was really aggressive, and so everybody's got their style. I'm not spitting on anybody. I'm just focused on my own lane, and that's like how I've been able to be successful. It to each his own.
You've let your game do the talking in the ultimate end there without having to do anything else. Keri Potts is with me. I'm Bryan Fenley. You mentioned like how hard you are on yourself, and that actually probably in a way has been a benefit to see where your career has gone. But how early in your life and your upbringing do you trace like where that being hard on yourself came from? Growing up as a child, where you first noticed symptoms of that entering your life?
Brian, this is the stuff of therapy sessions.
Yes.
Brian, Brian, you're getting into dangerous territory. Boy, I listen. When I grew up, I was super tall and I had big hair, just like I do now, and so I kind of stuck out like a sore thumb. And there's a lot of things that come with that. And when you're the big strong kid, there's a lot of expectation, and when you're more developed than everybody else and you're a better athlete, then there's like recognition that comes with that, right? And boy, do we love us some sports in the United States. It's not just recognition; it's within an athletic capacity, right? Um, and so I think what it begets more pursuit of that, and comfort with that. And once you kind of get down that path, it feels very natural. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think those were the origins of it.
And the way in which you were able to manifest this dream of yours in
Yeah.
media and become an executive in communications, how do you feel like kind of being hard on yourself actually was a benefit to the steps that you've taken in your career in a way because of the standard that you held yourself to?
Look, I don't recommend it for anyone. I mean, like there's a lot of, yeah, I would I got to a point, where you're kind of over index. There's nothing good about that. So, I didn't need anyone to tell me I screwed up. I come at myself harder than anyone, and that's not great. It has its downfalls. So I would say that, yes, it propelled me. But I think I kind of got to an age where I thought, well, this doesn't really serve me anymore. It's not kind. It's not kind to myself, and I wouldn't let my friend or someone I love about love do this, talk to themselves this way, or be this hard and this exacting. So those are kinds of the conversations you have when you're a little bit wiser, a little bit older, and you're tired.
Yeah.
I think that's the root of most things. I'm just tired, Brian.
Well, you're also very kind. And the idea of you sharing your kindness to others, how do you do that in different ways that even to this day, we talk about when you were younger as a child, but right now, what are the ways in which you like to spread your kindness to others?
Service, being of service to others is my love language. I've always been, like I said, I've always been the bigger kid, so I had an expectation to protect, and I really took that to heart, in everything, just socially, um, even in my job. I mean, if you think of PR, like you're a gatekeeper, right? You're trying to protect people, and so the kindness for me, I will say, I've been through some things in life that took the edge off a little bit. I'm kind, but I'm also like I have a tough shell, and
Yeah.
that also is to protect myself.
Yeah.
That is it. That happens when you have a soft inside. You put a pretty hard, shell on. And so that's kind of how you either know me as someone who's kind or someone who's extremely tough. And whoever's watching this, like they're gonna fall in one of the two camps. They're like, she's, like my names when I worked at ESPN, I was Empress of Darkness. That was something a media member dubbed me. Sam Ponder called me Xena Warrior Princess. Yeah, I had like a lot of different names. Uh, but kindness is really something that is like never 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 harming people, never that you don't have to, never just the pursuit of it, never picking on someone who
Yeah.
already should be protected societally, should be be protected. And those are things my parents instilled in me. And I think about that all the time, and in the work that I do now, trying to protect women and girls,
Yeah.
everything from when I was little to protecting kids that used to get picked on, and getting in fistfights with boys all the time, if they were picking on someone. So my kindness is kind of in the very protective streak. And you'll see like a through line in that from when I was little, all the way till now into the work that I do. But I wouldn't confuse kindness with nice. Like, I'm not nice. I would actually hate for someone to call me that. I am purposeful. I am opinionated. I am
Yeah.
fierce in being kind. But I'm tough too.
That toughness has been seen in your story. You mentioned, Keri, how you've been out on the front lines and helping those who are picked on. How have you picked yourself up?
I wasn't great at it. I do, I think if anyone who Googles me, which I hate that people do that, but they will. I do a lot of gender-based violence work, and um, in the beginning, I didn't. It's cumulative. The effect it had on me, it wasn't obvious. So, I would roll in from college game day, and it's like traveling with the Beatles, and
Yeah.
and everyone's Miss Potts, come here, come to our tailgate, like whatever, they kind of know you when you roll into campus. I would come back, and then the next morning I'd roll into my shift at the hospital in Atlanta. It was like a level 1 trauma center, so I'd be there for 7 p.m. shift, and in that context, I'm just a volunteer in my red smock, and I'm nobody, in that scenario. And I just found that I liked who I was in that moment. Like, I liked the anonymity of it. I liked the level setting, of what's valuable to me and what isn't. But what I didn't appreciate in those good things I was getting from that kind of balance, was the toll it was taking on me to see level 1 trauma, sexual assault, um, and kind of the cruelty and the creativity of certain perpetrators. I'd be in the psych ward. I would be dealing with people coming in from Fulton County Prison, very violent. And I would leave that work and then go into work the next morning. And it wasn't like I got home and just bawled or cried or anything. It was kind of this kind of gradual dimming of my light, this kind of gradual dimming of my joy, until I learned how to um, like erect more boundaries, like mentally, in doing that work, until I learned how to alleviate some of the stress of that, of some of what I was witnessing, which was very jarring. So yeah, that's kind of, I wasn't great at it. I had to learn and teach myself. And so I could continue to do the work, and not let it get in as deeply as it was.
Keri, when your light was at its lowest, who stepped in and helped you turn the lights back on?
Well, a lot. I have some wonderful friends. I have some really wonderful friends that that I consider family. First and foremost, I would name Rob Tobias, who was my boss at the time, and Josh Krulowitz, who went on to be my boss as well. But these were very important men in my life. Rob he knows me, like he knew who I was. He hired me at ESPN, and he died several years ago. And just reminding me, like, I'm doing a good thing, I'm a good person. He's very proud of me, and my family, they're very proud of me. And nobody, had any expectation on me. They'd say, you can quit at any time, like, no one's expecting you to put this on your shoulders. And I would say, um, they would remind me why I got involved, and but also that I am uniquely formed. I think I am able to take on a lot. I have broad shoulders, like, physically have them,
Yes.
and have them for a reason. So they would always center me. Um, yeah, absolutely. Those are the folks. But I'm not going to say it's easy.
Yeah.
It's not easy. This is tough stuff. And it's just like we're backsliding in so many things. It feels like 10 steps forward, 30 steps back, and like you're screaming into the void. So,
But when you talk and you do your TED talk, which
yeah,
was beautiful,
thank you.
you went into that knowing the trauma that you had gone through, wanting to help others. How was that experience getting your message across on that platform cathartic for you and helpful for others?
Gosh, I have so much wrapped up in that memory. My friend Tracy Messier, total give her a shout. She's the one that told me to apply. Um, that was like a life's dream. Like I started doing a lot of speaking. It really started to accelerate, um, such that that last 2 years at ESPN, I was speaking quite heavily around the country. But it was about me talking to people about the language of violence, or um, about the dynamics of the crime in an educational capacity, using myself as like kind of the anchor. But what I really wanted to do was talk about workplace policy and how violence affects women outside the workplace, but then they come into work and it's supposed to be normal, right? If we want to pursue our attackers, like we need time to do that. We need workplace adjustments. We need certain accommodations. And I felt very passionate about it. The more I studied it. And also I knew that the lack of resources for this particular, crime, if you are assaulted overseas, there's just nothing. And you don't realize that until you come back to the States. So this was the thing I was most passionate about, but I never had the proper venue. So when I found it, oh gosh, I worked on that speech. I mean, when you have a great, like you get 12 minutes, and there were like 2.5 weeks of just walking around my apartment and talking in the
Wow.
mirror and talking and like getting the down and the hand movements and how am I going to look and all that. And um, that moment, I don't watch it ever because it's not perfect in my mind. But it was honest, and it was the best I could do. And I am always very thankful for having that opportunity, and for all the people that came up to me that day and all the people that still watch it and still post it. Like, that's like legacy. And I think I'm definitely haunted by this concept of legacy. I want to leave my mark, and it was never going to be, she worked at ESPN. As much as I loved that place and was loved and respected, no one's going to say, put that on my headstone. And I don't have children. And so very obvious, like ways to have legacy, for me, it's a little bit of a different path. And so that's something I'm pursuing, and I'm not done yet with that work.
You're not done with that work. And you mentioned imperfection. Where do you find beauty though in your imperfection?
Oh God, beauty of my imperfection. I don't know that I find beauty in it. I find humor. I find a lot of humor. Beauty and I are not a thing. Like I don't, yeah, no, I've always been probably actually pretty intense, like in terms of like I love poetry, and I love the power of words, and I have always found very profound meaning in like the turn of a phrase. Um and I find beauty in words. And for me, there's always like mantras like I'll repeat to myself when I'm going through something hard, or when I have moments I question myself. So something I always say is, I am the master of my fate. I'm the
Mm.
captain of my soul. I am the captain of my soul. I am the master of my fate, no matter what gets tossed at me, right? And and then also my mind to me a kingdom is there, in perfect joy I do find. I love that it's permission to be self-contained and self-propelled. And I moved over here. I don't know anyone. I travel all around by myself, and I find beauty in that kind of fearlessness. Um, And I also find, like I said, humor in just all the life quirks that come with that. You don't have anyone around to tell to, but I talk to myself a lot. I really like what I have to say. Uh, I yeah, I'm pretty introspective in that way.
What are your quirks?
Oh boy. I mean, how long do you have,
We
Brian?
got time. We have
Right,
time.
I have a fake fire behind me, and I sit by this thing every
Well,
night like it's real. Like, let's talk about that.
so
Let's
that's a
let's
quirk.
Yeah, that's a quirk. Yeah, I love me a fireplace. Gosh, a quirk. I mean, there you go. I'll talk to anyone. I will talk out. I'll just think out loud. I think it catches people off guard, especially in London. Like someone walk down the street, I'm like, yeah, that's a great, blah, blah, and they just like look at me. So like kind of that kind of thing. And then also I like, yeah, the things I'm really into are, I told someone yesterday, I'm like an 80-year-old inside. Most of the shows I'll watch will have adverts for crematoriums, estate planning, and hospice care. And and like I am squarely in that set. I'm watching World War II documentaries.
Yeah.
I'm watching vet shows. Like I am not up on the latest like Oscar front runner. So yeah, stuff like that. I like really old things. I do junior archaeology here.
Oh.
And I will just be out there finding things and then taking them back and like studying them all day with like my little like magnifying glass. So I think probably, I don't know if that's counterculture, but it feels counterculture, like in an age where everything's like very fast and digital and everyone's very snackable things. I'm looking backward at things to kind of anchor to older, like the world, the history, things before me. So kind of old school stuff.
So are you saying like you'll go to like a dinosaur site with your magnifying glass, or what's the picture? This picture that you're setting, I'm like, please tell me more. What this
In
is
my head,
like?
it makes sense. This is a topic of a lot of
Yeah.
humor with my friends. But there, you can get a permit here. London
Oh.
was founded by the Romans, well, and before that, but officially the Romans. It was Londinium, and then obviously conquered. It was at the Hanseatic League and the Vikings and all that. And so there are remnants everywhere. And I know there's people that do like metal detecting. I don't do that, but you can get a permit, and there's certain things you can do here in the area of London. And then if you find it, you have to catalog it with the Museum of London if it's of a certain age or quality. And like half the fun for me is figuring out what the heck I found. Half the time I'm like, I know this is something. I don't know what it is, but it's something. It just feels like something, and I'll bring it back and study it and like look it up. And um, yeah, so, and if there's like no one with me, it's just me doing this, out in the morning when the sun's rising or whatever. So yeah, it's definitely dorky. There's nothing cool about it, and I don't claim to be cool.
Well, I just did not picture you, and I'm glad that you clarified. You walking around on a beach here, let's just say in California, with a metal detector, listening to some music with a jukebox on your shoulder. Like
No, 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 that's what I literally would be the 80-year-old man. That's fine. I literally would be in that scenario.
do you find yourself an old soul?
Of
When you
course.
were when you were a child,
Yes.
did you notice that?
No, yes.
What?
You don't even, you can stop with the question. Yes. Like, yes. Yes, at all times, yes. At all times. Always. The things that interested me, the sensibilities, the feeling like I don't understand what these kids are talking about. I want to read about Elizabeth the First, stuff like that. And I think a lot of people go through that, and it's just set in, it's just when I entered the universe, that was my lot in life. How I
for
look at it.
for you and your love of history,
Yeah.
obviously you're spending a lot of time learning from the past. When do you find your mind most thinking about the future?
Oh, good God. Hmm. I must think about the future when I think about, um, what I'm working toward.
Yeah.
Right, what am I working toward?
Yeah.
And it goes back to the concept of legacy, right? What is the thing that I will feel satisfied that I have fulfilled my purpose, that I have led the good life, right? I'm particularly conscious of this after, like I said, Rob passed, and I lost people I deeply loved in a very quick time back in 2019, 2020, in about 5 months. Um, and all I could think of, which was really accelerated my leaving ESPN, was, get moving, Keri, get going, get moving, get going. If this is not it, then you got to go find it. It was like screaming in my brain. I didn't need COVID to help me figure out and orient myself to,
Sure.
what matters. And I think a lot of people did that during that. I already knew. Um, and it was about the future. It was, am I delivering on my purpose? Am I contributing to society? And not that you don't through sports, because sport is very powerful, but I had done all there was to do in my role and was being pulled in another direction, and wanted to honor that by exploring what that looked like.
It's
And yeah.
so well said. Keri Potts is with me. I'm Bryan Fenley. I have one last question for you here, Keri. And you talked about your legacy. And obviously, people know you for different things. How do you want to break down sort of the way in which you want to most be remembered, be thought of in this business, sort of like a backwards pyramid where people are
Oh
talking,
gosh.
like that? How would you
Oh, you just
describe
gave
the
me like a math question, and it, and like, what was it? Multiple planes. Like there was a lot of like trying to.
well, think about it like this: like in journalism, right? As you're better than anybody at,
Yeah,
it's like
the inverted. The
yeah,
inverted. I
it's
get it.
like yeah, you want to hit the top, yeah. So how would that shape for you?
Well, it's not my job title. I can tell you that for that. There came a time and I just decided that that wasn't that important to me. Um, yeah, no, I want to be known for having tried to institute change on something. I want to be known for making that decision to leave what was really easy. And sports can be easy when you get to a certain level. Like I didn't even have to think that last year or two, which is the God's honest truth. And I hated that. I hate if I'm not intellectually captivated. It's like I felt like dead inside. Basically, I
Sure.
tell people I just had lost all my fire, and so I want to be known beyond that. That I made a choice that most people don't, which was to walk away at like the zenith. And doesn't mean I won't be back, because I probably
Sure.
will at some point. But that I kind of made the call for something a little bit bigger than myself. Um, I'm not for everyone, and I'm not a saint by any means. But I did my work really well at ESPN. I was regarded well in the industry. I I led, I on an issue, and gave a lot of people an avenue, and someone to talk to. And I still hear from people all the time. They'll call me here, and people I don't really know that well, but have heard of me, will call and ask for guidance. And that to me is how I want to be known, so that I helped. That I was somebody that created a space in a very a very tough industry for that, in a conversation, more than anything. Yeah, and that I was a good person. I think that would be it. Anything else is just icing. The awards, the athletic accomplishments, the fabulous hair, and the fireplace. No, yeah, I think that's it, and I don't think that's going to change much, even if we were to have this interview like 10 years from now.
Keri, we don't need the fireplace to know that the fire is raging inside of you. That's just another example
Fire.
of where it is. Keri Potts, head of communications at Amazon for DSP and DAs in the EU. Really appreciate this conversation and where it went and how it will inspire and how you continue to inspire and learning about your quirks. I think that's fascinating. I had no idea. What I love about these conversations, Keri, is I'm going into this with you, and now I know that you have like a magnifying glass in your pocket at all times, looking around the streets of London with looking for a dinosaur. Like I had no idea. So I'm so glad that you shared that story.
No, listen, I just listen, this is why I don't like when people Google me, because you don't know me at all. You
Yeah.
don't know a thing. And you know me from a very extreme point in my life where, I'm not walking around with a superhero cape. At times when I need it, sure. But I don't like being robbed of like the experience of sharing my quirks, and I think that's in the age we're in. I do lament that.
Well, it's so cool to dive into your personality and such a
Thank you.
powerful, inspirational voice, a beacon of hope for others in what you do. Keri Potts, I'm Bryan Fenley. Keri, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you for having me.